G'day there, Signets and Swanlings. 2012 Premiership player Nick Smith here. It's my pleasure, as always, to introduce a bevy of bloods, a fan podcast of the Sydney Swans Football Club, brought to you by Noddy and Stevo, a pair of red and white tragics. So pop on the kettle and settle in as the boys had an in-depth chat about the Swans' last game, the Swans' next game, and a little bit about footy too. This is Nick Smith signing off until next week's episode. But in the meantime, remember, be good to your bloods and they'll be good to you.
Welcome back to a bevy of bloods. My name is Noddy and I'm joined by Chriso once again. G'day, mate. How's Singapore?
Singapore's very hot and humid, as you'd expect.
A perfect climate for the perfect gentleman. I would say in this episode number 40, we'll be reviewing the round 11 game versus Tigers and also be having a quick chat about the upcoming Demons game too. So fluff up your tail feathers and settle in for a potentially biased yarn about all things to do with our beloved bloods. Last Friday night, our Sydney Swans defeated the Richmond Tigers by 6 points, with us scoring 16-10-106 to their 15-10-100. All right, mate, first impressions. What do you think of that?
Oh, my God, Noddy, what a game. Had everything, didn't it? Controversy, some rough play, a couple punches amongst it all. It was amazing. Look, we were watching it from an Aussie bar in Singapore. And for the listeners out there, Steve-O was actually in Singapore at the same time. And it was actually the first time that both of us had met each other. He pops in, end of the first quarter. And both of our eyes are just glued on the game, and it was like we'd known each other for 40-odd years, So that was really, really fun. But there was four of us in this bar in Singapore, all supporting the Swans only, and we were making enough noise. Mate, you were at the game. What was the vibe? Tell me. I need to know.
It was unreal. Before I get into it, man, I just had a quick question. How did you recognize each other? Did he have like a red rose, or was it like a red and white rose, or...
No.
Had you'd seen a photo of him before?
No. I think you always called him a Viking, and he rocked up, and he just this bloke who looked like a Viking rocked up, and yeah, we just took off from there. It was easy.
Awesome. That's Steve-O. All right, mate, back to the vibe. Friday night prime time, 31,000 people. Pretty good weather for Sydney, considering all the rain of late. It was dewy, but it worked out well. 7th versus 8th, Cat Whisker separating us on percentage. They're coming off a 4-game winning streak. We'd won 1 out of our last. The best second quarter team coming into the game. They smashed us. They kicked 6 straight to go into halftime, 25 points up, 31 points at the beginning of the third quarter. Millsy gets swung into defense. All of a sudden, we come home strong to win in a very, very tight and thrilling clash. We kicked 10 of the last 13. Buddy kicked 4 of those, 3 in the fourth quarter. It was an absolute classic. It was a thrilling game. So stoked to win. It was tarnished by that controversial call which finished the match. And also the 61 free kicks that were awarded throughout. But I'm sure we're going to be talking about all this stuff throughout, mate. But that was my first impressions. And we may as well get on to takeaways, mate. What do you think? What were your main takeaways?
Just we've got we've spoke about how important the next set of games were and what that really meant to us landing in the ladder. And we kind of looked at the team and we're like, we always thought top 6, right? And then at the beginning of the year, we're saying, top 4. Now, then we said top 6. And then we're thinking, top 8. The way that we played, that intent, that aggressiveness, the way that we went deep into the game and we finished off way stronger than they did by far. And we did the week before. My takeaway is that I think we've got a very, very, very good team in terms of the fitness, what they've got. The way they finish off the game so damn strong. I mean, I think it was Daniel Talia when he came over. He mentioned, I think one of his first interviews, like, geez, like, what do you take away from your first impressions at the Swans? And he said, I've never been part of a team. I had no idea that any club put this much effort into fitness. And I think that's been the last few years and is very much showing. Young guys like Rowie and Warner, that we'll talk about in a little moment, were just finishing the game insanely strong. When you watch the end of the game, a lot of the Tigers players weren't bending down to get the ball. They were just, throwing their arm in front or just kicking it forward. We'll talk about kind of moments, but Rowie's getting his head down, getting down to get the ball, causing them to give him head highs. That kind of intent around the ball, that energy towards the end of the game was the total difference maker and won it. It was just a huge, huge, huge game all the way through the entire team. And as you mentioned, Mills rolling back just settled it right down.
Yeah,
So many takeaways from this, mate. It's just, I don't even know where to begin, really.
Yeah, I know. It was quite nostalgic, wasn't it, seeing Millsy up back? And I might go back to one of your earlier points about, us running it out and them maybe looking a little bit, for want of a better term, fatigued towards the end. They had 7 players over 30, whereas we had 7 players under 21. But I mean, with that comes their cohesion, and that was a talking point from Horse. They're a highly successful team. 3 flags over the 4 years. They know each other in and out. Obviously, Lynch was out, but they filled it with Soldo going forward. They were an amazing. The effort they put forward in the first half was incredible, and it was looking pretty dicey at halftime. Thinking, oh man, this is going to be a long day. But I was going through the stats, right, quarter by quarter, trying to see if anything jumped out, because when you look at it for the whole game, basically it was an even contest, and the thing that separated us really was accuracy in that fourth. But I was quite intrigued to see whether or not, because much has been said, our first quarters are bad, our second quarters are bad. I actually went through the numbers, and our first halves have been bad this year. Our second halves have been wonderful. So going through all the 4 quarters, I'll just highlight the first half averages and the second half averages. Basically, we've kicked 43 points for, and we've had 45 points kicked against us on average in the first half. So we're losing our first halves by 2.5, let's call it 3 points. Doesn't sound like much, but on average, that's what it is. So we're losing our first halves. In the second half, however, we're scoring 51.5 points, so it's called 52, and we're conceding 33 points. So that's a differential of 19. We're winning the second half by 3 goals. So that's kind of indicative of what happened. We started slow, through effort, a few tactical changes, like with Millsy going back, a little bit more evening out of the contest, and we came home strong, plus vintage Buddy, and we'll talk about that, talk about him as well. But for me, it was just it was a game we had to win, as you already said, and we did what we had to get it done, and it was really pleasing considering how much younger we were than them and how much less experience we had. But I don't know. We'll have a quick look at Swans to date, right? So we are now 7th we're coming 7th with, I believe it's 7 wins and 4 losses. And they are, I think they've slipped out of the 8 now. So, because the Bulldogs have come back in. So they're stalling there on 6, and you can hear my voice, by the way. This is
still a hangover from the weekend, mate.
Yes, it is. This is Friday night. I screamed like an idiot. I was like swearing and apologizing to children nearby. It was like vintage Noddy at the footy. It was so stressful and so thrilling. But I sang the song so many times. My voice is still hoarse come Monday night. So it was a great game, and obviously fantastic because we won. But anyway, Tigers 6 wins, 5 losses. Already mentioned that there wasn't much separating us. It really just shows you why it was such an exciting game, because we're both evenly matched. But just so stoked to come out with a win on that one, considering we didn't get the Blues game the week before.
And this is, I guess, we've spoken a couple of times before. Any given Friday, any given Sunday, that kind of mentality, right? The AFL is built with a number of teams in the middle that can all have a red hot shot, and we are in the mix of all of that. And we've got our own particular skill sets. We've got these young fellas, and it looks like our fitness, our way to finish off a game is really coming on strong. Look what we did, North, what we did against the Hawks, the way we finished the game against the Blues. Unfortunately lost, but we came back very, very strong. This week, that last half was just deep, really deep from so many players. It's a strong part of our game, and the stats you just noted there are exactly what's going on.
Yeah, it was so exciting at the game as well, mate. Hey, what were your favourite moments?
Look, my most favourite moment was that last couple of minutes. It was a contest in our pocket. In their pocket, rather. Sorry. Laddam's got his hand on the ball, hit the ground. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the other players on the Tigers side, they were shattered, and it looked like our guys were just way hungrier. And this play And this next couple of plays produce exactly that. Rowie goes in to try to get the ball, I think 2 or 3 times while it's on the bouncing around the ground. He's got intent. He's going to get his hands on the ball no matter what. The Tigers players are shattered. They can barely get down their knees. They're throwing hands out to kind of stop him, slap him in the face a couple of times. He gets a free kick. All of a sudden, we ease down a little bit. He takes that free kick, pumps up to the wing, where Reed does a fantastic contest, gets it down right in front of him. I think it's Logan that picks it up, passes it off to Parker. And then Parker does what is the smart thing, which is to pump it forward and pray that it doesn't go out deliberate. Unfortunately, it was going out to be deliberate. It was going. But we have the almighty, the Chad, right? He beats not 1, not 2, but 3 Tigers players out to that wing to make sure that he gets a contest right before the ball goes out. Not only does he do that, he also makes sure that Rioli gets to the ball slightly before him and then puts a big body on him to make sure the ball goes out with Rioli's touch. That, at that moment, effectively iced that game. Granted, we'll talk about what happened at the end of the game, of course.
Which also involved Chad.
With also involved the Chad, if anyone hasn't noticed it. But it was that string of moments. Rowie on one side to get his hands on the ball with intent, to be that guy, to just no one else got near him. And when they did, they slapped him in the face and he got that free. He designed that, he created that moment. And then Chad, with the smarts and the energy and the aggression and the intent to get to that ball in that pocket, that was an incredible play by 2 players that are really doing the number around the ball. It's the future of our game. It's just a beautiful moment. It's a very good time to be a Swans fan. We've said that a few times. The last couple of years, it's very, very, very exciting. What about you, mate? I could talk about a few more, but I'll pass it over to you. Go ahead.
That was one of my favourite moments. The Chad, just the sprint to beat, I think it was Vlostone, and then to put the bump on Rioli. Bloody BT saying, "Oh, the free kick there." That guy. Don't get me started about the commentators. They were rubbish.
Let's not talk about BT.
God,
that was the most one-sided commentary I've heard for a long time.
It's so painful.
Mate, it's so painful. Anyway,
let me go. Yeah, all right. Back to the favourite moments. Look, Buddy's bombs, centre square bombs, just vintage Buddy, just amazing, just so wonderful to watch. Errol had a few lace-out kicks to Buddy. They were just things of beauty. Rowie's crumb and goal, that was just superb, and it came at such an important time. I just thought that was very classy from him. Papley's tap over the head to Wilbur for, I think, maybe his first goal. And in his 100th game. So these are all a few things that just stuck out to me that were just really exciting plays and my favourite moments. But, mate, up next, we're going to be talking about the A-Bob medal, which is our equivalent of the Bob Skilton medal. So the Bevies' best bloods this week in 3-2-1 points order were Lance Buddy Franklin, Chad the Chad Warner, and Peter the Lad Laddams. So kick us off, mate. What do you got to say?
Mate, Buddy, he's not aging. what is going on? Like
unbelievable, wasn't it?
He's incredible. I think we said against was it Carlton when we mentioned, like, is he going to do the next 10 years of his career as a rover or as a small forward?
Yeah,
he's getting around. Like, I don't know, understand what's going on. Like, whatever's going on, wherever he's living, whatever coming out of that water, I think we need to start distributing it across the country. It's just insane. Like, what is going on with the Buddy? He's absolutely killing it. You talk the stats, but not only was he around, he was being so smart with the football. I mean, he was calling for it. But do you remember that moment where Papley got his hands on the ball? It was a smart move by Papley, and then basically drew in 3 defenders to himself. Buddy just stood aside, and he knew the ball was coming for him, and he never said a single word. He just put his distance, watched Papley, got that ball, and then, of course, the wherewithal to finish from over there, from wherever it was. It was on that side. So Buddy is just killing it, and it doesn't seem like he's aging. We've probably got. I understand that Buddy is in talks at the moment for his extension, which only makes a lot of sense given how well he's been playing. And as we all know, statistically, players in their last year always play really well, so that could be a part of it. Look, 1 year the contracts until he finishes it off, I think. But yeah, mate, unbelievable. Like, he is the greatest showman. He continues to show, and we are so lucky as Swans fans to watch him roll out every single week. And he also slapped Cochin in the face, which was an extra little bit of benefit for our side. So that's across the board, mate.
That's doesn't come up on the stat line, but yeah, it was one of those talking points, wasn't it? Like, he kicked 5 goals. He won the Goods O'Loughlin medal for best on ground in the Marn Grook. As I said earlier, we kicked 10 of the last 13. He kicked 4 of those. He kicked 3 in the fourth quarter alone. He really was. He got us over the line. It was unbelievable. He just played so well. And other than those, depending on where you sit, brain fades. I mean, I'm pretty one-eyed Swans fan. I think, Cochin kind of like shoulders him in the ribs, headbutts him, and then stages. So we're going to talk about that? Probably not. Anyway, we'll talk about the tribunal in a moment. Buddy was incredible. Just so good to watch. How about the Chad, mate?
The Chad is he's been in the mix this entire year, right? So last year he came out strong, played a really good year. We're all like, wow, this kid's look really good. This year he started. We've always been speaking about him every single game all the way through.
Yeah,
and we've been saying that, look, like he's 4th in the ABOB medal week to week, and we're all like, wow, it's fantastic how consistent he's been amongst it all. The last few weeks he has really turned it on, and he was just unbelievable throughout the entire game. He and Rowie both had a job to do when Mills had to roll back and take care of that defense, and that did the job. And so there's no doubt that in the team huddle at halftime, they would have looked at those two boys, Chad and Rowie, and said to them, Parker as well, and sat them down and going, this is your moment. This is for you to have to commit and just drive the team. You don't have your backup. You guys need to take this on.
Yeah, no Joey.
No Joey.
Yeah.
And no Mills. They got it done, mate. Can't say enough about the Chad. The Chad is killing it.
Unreal, man. Like, I fully agree. I think it was his best game. He was so influential. He was just like from start to finish, right? And especially, as you've already touched on, those last 2 minutes, just a great example of his presence. He out sprinted those 2 Tigers, put the bump on. He comes back. He's in that last play with Prestia. Mind you, he cops a massive open hand to his face, which just goes unnoticed somehow, even though Stevich is in the center square and saw something. But yeah, like 27 disposals, most for a Swan, 14 contested possessions, 9 inside 50s, 7 score involvements, 6 clearances, and 4 tackles. Just unreal. So good. It was so impressive. He's so fast.
He's quick. The first few steps is powerful, and he knows that. He said that in some interviews to say, like, that's a skill set he has. That's a different differentiator that he's really working on. When you mentioned that he got a high defense in the face in that very last play, he could have done what some players do and put up his hands and called for a free kick. He didn't. He just rolled on, chased him up. Yeah, sure, gave away a free kick, an arguable free kick, but a free kick nonetheless. But the fact that he just didn't care, he just continued on with intent, is also a sign of maturity with his kid. A big fan. I think we all are. Absolutely.
Fully agree, mate. Like, the other thing I just noticed is that he was just so present. He was just when he wasn't the person who was kicking the goal or making the play, he wasn't far away, and you could see that he was just like, really encouraging the teammates. And when Buddy got a couple of those goals, he was like in screen, like first one to him. You could just see the excitement he has with playing with a legend. But that just shows you that he was just he was just there all game, and he just had, I think he was on a mission. Like, as you're saying, like, he's been stepping up this year. Yeah, Joey's out. Parker's playing a bit of a roll forward, and then Mills gets swung back. So really, it was just unbelievable, just so unbelievable. I mean, the only slight probably is that behind. I don't even think that last play is a slight on him. He's excited. He kicks it. He clearly doesn't hear the whistle. I mean, why would he? He wouldn't. I don't think any player would do that if they heard a whistle.
No,
he didn't even look like he was like, once he found out, he was genuinely like, no, like, I didn't you know.
Mm.
And then anyway, I don't know when we should talk. Maybe we should talk about that in the last bit. I don't know, because we've got a fair bit to say about it. But all right, mate, should we get on to the lads? I'm getting excited again. My voice is starting to waver. I'm going to sing some songs soon.
Yeah, look, ladders. The lad was doing it. Just had. I don't know what I'd probably say. This is the best game he's played.
I
Just
agree.
the way that he finished it off. It didn't look like he got tired the entire game. And I think, I remember, I said last week and the week before, kind of like, looks like it's slowing up a bit. It looks like he needs a bit of a rest. And when we had Hickey available to us, I was under the impression, my thought was maybe give Laddams a rest, give him a week off to, rest those big legs of his. But he played it out and he looked a little bit sluggish towards the end there. Maybe he just needed to just ease his body into it. But this week, he gave it his all. He was up and around it. He was definitely winning a lot of the contest. And if he wasn't winning it, he was next to the ball. Those ground ball gets that he had was very, very good. He's got the most clearances in the game with 9. Like, he was really, really up and amongst it. It was a Tom Hickey style win, where even if he didn't get his hands on the ball, he was trying to get that tackle down. And one thing that I really, really loved about him, when he goes to bump, he goes bump to hurt. He tackles to hurt. He's a big boy and he knows it. And I don't know whether Dean Cox is just like, you're a big lad. If you're going to tackle one of these, 6'2" mids, you got to make it hurt. And I think he's learning. There's no soft touches anymore. He throws his body at it, and I'm a big fan. A big game from him, and we really needed it. Without that, there would have been nothing there, as with all the players. But of course, the ruckman getting it absolutely done.
Yeah, mate. Like, obviously, with Hickey not pulling up and them deciding to go with Reed as the chop out, which, a lot of Swans fans weren't sure how that was going to go. We'll talk about him in a second. But yeah, no, lads stood up. He was unreal. He went toe to toe with Nank and Soldo, who's a genuine ruck in his own right. Totally held his own. The thing that probably the most pleasing thing for me about Lad's game is just his extra support in defence. How many times do we see him back up the McCartans, throw a fist in there, help out? So he's obviously doing, as you say, he's running, he's working hard 2 ways, he's getting back. And I just thought, I thought it was his best game as well. Like, it'd be unreal if you could get on the scoreboard, but, what do you got? Like, when you have that sort of a game that's consistent and you're the key ruck who's basically been playing sort of almost second ruck to Hickey when he's been in, or when they've decided to play 2 rucks, which is from a couple of weeks ago. Like, he had some ground to make up, and I think he definitely did this week. And it was really, really pleasing. 19 disposals, 26 hitouts. As you already said, most clearances, 9, very Hickey-like, and 8 score involvements. So, he was all about. Mate, honourable mentions. I'll just kick us off, mate. Millsy and Parker, we've already touched on. Millsy had 20 disposals, 7 tackles. It was just Millsy of old back there. He just settled things back there once he was swung back. It gave us all of our structure back. It let us, we had that sort of security knowing we had that sweeper there who's, either going to come up as a second or, last line of defense or come through and steal the mark. But it was beautiful to see. Obviously, he suffered a little bit in fantasy, and that's okay because not everyone plays fantasy, but I do, and he's in about 7 of my teams, so that's all right. Lukey Parker, 26 disposals, 5 tackles, 7 clearances, 1 goal. That inside 50 to Papley, that goal that Papley got, very, very important timing. That kick lowered his eyes, got that beautiful, beautiful drill pass to Papley. Yeah, just one of my favourite moments. Should have shouted it out earlier. I'll just say the McCartans. My only comment is these boys, these brothers, how thankful we are. Tommy was unreal. His spoils, his 1%ers, his pressure acts. Paddy in the first half, I think he was starting to do those intercept marks like we know. But just in tandem together, man, it's looking more and more rock solid, isn't it? How about you, mate? Do you have any honourables?
Yeah, look, you mentioned Reed. I think
yep.
Controversial topic half the time with, and this is how funny some of it is. He played the game that he did. He was fantastic in the forward line as defense, as that tall marker. He's a smart footballer. He's a good footballer. depending on the matchup, he's in our best team. And bothers me that there's still, even after that game, I still saw things on Facebook where some guy is writing, when are we going to get rid of Reed? I'm like, did you even watch the game? Like, what are you doing? So, like, let's just take it down a notch. Is he the best player on the field all the time? No. Is he the Reed of old? No. Is he always going to kick straight? He never has. So stop thinking he will. But he's a fantastic contested marker. He knows exactly where to be when we're in danger, and he puts his body on line every single time, despite the career that he's had. Mate, Reed had an absolute screamer of a game, and not only that, he also was a chop out in the ruck, as you mentioned, winning 8 of the 23. So at about 35%, which in all numbers is a very, very good stat line for a bloke that's just thrown into that ruck. For example, Ladham's at 33%, Nank at 33%, and Reed at 35%. So Reed got it done when he had to. And his follow-up work also around the ruck was noted with some intent. So, mate, Reed had an absolute scream of a game. Really, really happy with that. The other names to throw into the mix, Rowie, speaking about him a bit lately, had that week off for that high contact against Merritt from memory.
That's it.
Back into the game, getting it done. Really, really hard at it. 19 disposals, 8 tackles. I think from memory that was most in the team. 26 pressure acts, most in the team. So 5 clearances, 4 score involvements. Just huge. Rowie, unlucky to get in the top 3 mix here, given what this really meant in the team, but we had a lot of players doing their role to make it happen. The other one, Hayward, Mr. 100 games. You forget that he's so young, right? Because he's just played so many games with us. He looked like a tiny little boy when he started. He is a monster of a guy now, and he was going to win this game, whether it doesn't matter who was in his way. He was amongst it. He was hungry as hell. That tap on from Papley for his goal was beautiful. I'm surprised I didn't get kicked out of the bar when that happened, because I started slamming my fist on the table. And there was, if you can imagine, there's only a couple of Swans fans there. So it's just me going absolutely bonkers and not realizing that I'm in a bar that's not everyone's appreciating what I'm doing. So, but nonetheless, Hayward was huge, absolutely massive. It gets me so excited to think about all these players. The other one that I just want to touch on would be Lloyd as well.
Oh, yeah, he had a good game. I agree.
He had a great game. His best game of the year. And a couple of things to kind of mix in with Lloyd. I think from 4 tackles, which is the same he had last week, which is good. That's what you want to see from him now. He also had 17 pressure acts. So So, for instance, Hayward and Wicks, 14 and 16 respectively. So Lloydie getting amongst it, definitely trying to get more pressure. I think he's been told he needs to play more defense rather than just getting those easy little half flank backman possessions. That's not his game anymore. He needs to do more pressure, and that is definitely getting done. So,
the fact that Blakey was that laid out, and Blakey's been taking the kick-ins the past couple of weeks, and Lloydie pretty much reverted, and was very solid. And I don't think he had too many clangers, if none, maybe. But I mean, every player has clangers, but we try not to focus them on in this podcast. But I thought Lloydie was bloody good as well, mate. Coaches' votes: Franklin 9, Warner 6, Laddams 4, Mills 3, Nank 3, Koch 2, Parker 2, Grimes 1. But hey, one thing I wanted to mention, I totally forgot. I brought a good mate of mine, Jamie. Shout out to Jamie. He's a Mad D's fan because he was born in Melbourne, but he came along and supported the Swans like a good bloke. And I was telling him about the players, and I think Goulden, I think it was in the first half, he was lining up for a shot on goal, and how's this guy? He's like, oh yeah, he's really good. Pick 32. Cats had a go at him, but we got him. Bid on him, but we got him. He's pretty much the rookie of the year last year, as voted by his peers. Beautiful kick, this kid. He's got such a beautiful kick. Economic kicking, actually just fully talked him up. And then I was like, oh God, I hope I haven't put the moz on him. And then Errol Goulden probably does the worst kick of his life. I think it hits his shin and like wobbles through the air and then comes short. But I just thought that was a very funny moment. But
that was so right. So that was you. You did that because
that was me.
Watching it. we're all like, this is an easy one. Well, he was like right in front with like 40 out or something, and then Noddy,
that was me.
Why did you do that for?
I have to apologise to Swans fans. That was my fault because I was explaining to Jamie how good Goulden's kicking was. It was just so funny. Anyway, all right, let's move on to hot topics, mate. So, how do we pull up after the match? What's happening at MRO? What changes are we making, if any? What happened in the VFL? So, first cab off the rank, obviously, is the buddy hit on Cochin. He's been given 1 week. I think it was what was the format? What's the technicality?
I think it's high intentional and medium contact or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. All right.
Yeah. So the Swans are contesting and suggesting that there was no intent in it because Buddy had hit him in the chest the first time, and then he's gone to swing again at the chest and accidentally hit him up. They say high. And that there was low contact, there was bugger all impact on it. So they're trying to get it reduced down, non-intentional and a low contact, which would then let him play out next week. I think we were having a look before this, but we think that might come out tomorrow. So we're not sure. We haven't heard anything, and it's getting on late in Australia. So let's just assume that we hear about it tomorrow. And keep your eye on the Bevy Twitter, and we'll be keeping an eye on exactly what happens there. What did you see of it? What do you think?
Oh, look, it's not a great look, obviously, and more than anything, it actually, like, we were going forward. I think maybe Papley or Heaney had a shot on goal, and then the play it was free kick reverse, so that was pretty disappointing. I think Horse touched on that, but look, I mean, Koch is a grub, mate. Like, this is a Swans podcast, so I'm just going to say it. He's up there with Selwood for me. Like, he's just like, good on him. Brownlow, all those premierships, captain, courageous. That collision with Buddy later on in the game. Yeah, it all makes sense, but he's grubby. He was getting under his skin. He did like a little rib tickler headbutt sort of thing. And, Buddy just wasn't having a piece of it. And then come on, there's a lot of Hollywood in that last little head wobble. I mean, if you really got hit, I mean, you're going to go down or you're going to go off. Where's the head, the concussion check? None of that. So, I mean, that's staging, isn't it?
Oh, look, he's probably one of those players that if he's on your team, you're like, awesome.
You love him. Yeah, totally.
And when he's not on your team, you hate him. Kind of like a Benny McGlynn, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, that's just the way he plays. Like, in a way, when I put my Swans glasses away, I respect it just because he gets it done. Look, if you're going to play against Buddy, he turned over a kick for Papley in the 50, right from pretty much right in front, and he got that turned around and got a 50 for it, and then they scored on the back of that. So he did his job as the captain. Is he still the captain? I don't know.
No, Nank and Grimes have been, but he was throughout their dynasty years.
Yeah. So fine. Like, all right, yes, as a Swans fan, I hate it so much. I could not be bothered more about it. As a general fan from the outside, look, whatever. And my personal opinion is definitely no intent in hitting the head. The impact was obviously low. Will we win this this argument? I don't know. But what's do we know that if we don't get Buddy away, does he sit out 2 weeks, or is it just no,
I'm not sure actually. That's probably one for Steve-O, but I don't think it's like if you're not successful, you don't like get another week added sort of thing. I think it just the week will stand. So it's pretty much a win-win. Like there's you'd be silly not to contest it in case you do get the 1 week removed. So yeah, but I think we're looking at, we'll do a quick preview later on. Maybe having a week out now before the bye isn't too bad, so long as, the players that come in do the job and we're kicking goals. But I guess that's my main concern. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. So you're going to be, we'll be watching tomorrow, and you'll be on the tweet, mate.
On the tweeties.
On the tweeties. All right. Yep. What do you reckon, mate? This is the key talking point. Warner, did they deserve a 50-meter penalty for Warner deliberately time wasting? I just feel stupid saying it. It just doesn't.
I know. Look, I think
it was common. I think it was common sense. I thought this is
Yeah.
finally the AFL, and this is the irony of it, is bloody Stevic, who's the umpire. He was the ump in the 2016 grand final. So if this is him trying to say sorry to Swans fans, we'll take it, but it doesn't right the wrong of 2016. Allow me to just say that now. But yeah, look, I don't know. It was the one thing that you think, oh, finally an umpire's a human.
Yeah, look, okay, so let's break it down. Now, ball in, Laddams gets in there. Warner's first to the, who was it? Presti's first to the ball, slaps Warner in the face. That should have been a free kick. That's all day, every day. I don't know why no one saw that, but whatever. Slaps him in the face. I don't even see the holding. I think Presti lost hand off the ball and he was still holding on to him.
But I don't know, was it Warner holding or Rowie holding? Because I thought Rowie held him a little bit more than Warner, but Rowie's hold wasn't even there. I don't even know what the free kick was for.
It must have been Rowie because Rowie stood the mark.
Rowie stood the mark. So it's Rowie holding Presti, which was soft as.
That was the softest free. So, okay, soft free kick. The high, that should have been a free kick. The holding was a soft free kick. Right, pay it.
Non-controlling umpire 60 meters away by Stevic in the center square. God. What the hell? Why is he making that call anyway?
That's an ordinary call. And so that to me is the controversy. That to me was that ending point. That's the problem with what happened. The missed free kick to us, and then they got that incredibly soft free kick. That to me is the actual game. Sure. Whistle goes, Warner doesn't hear anything, 31,000 Swans fans just lose their absolute minds.
Yeah.
And then Warner, this young kid, slams that ball in his boot in probably the best he's had in his career.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And he was a massive part of that win all the way through, and he knew it. And then that happened. Have you ever felt such dread in your life?
Yeah, it felt bad. As I said, we were on the other. So from the O'Reilly, it happened. I guess over towards the Barwongal. So it was hard for us to see. And the screen, Swans, if you're listening, update the screen above the. I guess down the what is that? The Randwick end.
Yeah.
The Randwick end, because it's terrible. You can't see crap. So we were like, oh, what's going on? What's going on? Everyone's waiting around. We didn't really know what was happening. And then I think we clued on. It's like, they're debating whether it's going to be a 50 or not. And you just hit the nail on the head, mate. It was just dread. You could hear, we went from screaming, jubilation, Warner's like kind of glee, to just that awful feeling in your stomach that this is going to end up as a draw, And so it was just, it was.
Warner has lost about 7 years of his life from that moment alone. Like that would have been it. Like, oh my God.
How was he? Like we're talking throughout. Yeah, he was just the guy this game. He was the guy that caught Presti's kick. Ironically, he's the guy who caught it, and then he kind of like went to the umpire. It's like, what? That kind of thing, and then turned around to Mills and gave him a high five. And you could just kind of hear Millsy going, "Hey, Chad, love your effort." But you might want to be careful, mate.
I was really hoping he grabbed that ball and then made sure the bell went and then just slammed on his boot again. I was really looking forward to that. But you know what? A little bit composed, grabbed the ball, said a couple of things, turned around, high fives, got on with it.
Question to you, Chriso. Yeah. 9 Tigers with their arms up. That's 50-meter descent, isn't it?
How is it not descent? They're like Rewalt comes screaming over, just going off, right? And then like no problem. Okay, look, Dusty went up there asking questions. He wasn't yelling. It looked like he was just like, "What is going on? Tell me." Like he was trying to make a good argument. Rewalt was not having any of it. He was definitely mad. And so he's going to be the logo I'm going to have when we release this podcast. Because I think that moment was just hilarious, and I really enjoyed that the most. But that for sure must have been dissent, right?
Yeah.
Like, anyway.
I mean, the way Buddy was, if that had landed in Buddy's hands, he might have kicked it from about 70. But, he did have a crack earlier in the game, and he's not really known for his talk. But, I think the right decision was made to not, give him 50. I think that common sense did prevail. I think it really did. I know we're Swans fans, and it came out in our favour. But honestly, I think Dimmer said this. We wouldn't be talking about this, if they didn't give up a 6-goal lead.
Yep.
If they won by 6 goals and the same thing happened at the end, they wouldn't care. Like it wouldn't be a talking point. It's just because it was so close, such a close game, and the Swans came back so hard. That's the story.
That's the story. But they never talk about that. Anyway, but if I'm going to be 100% honest, right? Ready, Swans fans? It's going to hurt a little bit, and you might hate me. Fair enough. The week before, the exact same thing happened, where was it Frio?
Switkowski, yeah.
And he's just kind of throwing the ball to the side as a non-thing, and then cops a 50. Like, I think I said at the beginning of the season, consistency. I think we all agree consistency is key. That's the key. Yeah. Like, I get it. Common sense, yes, totally. That was common sense. No one heard it. It was a split second before. It was, I think they said 8 frames by the end of the game. Like, it was a tiny amount.
Hundreds of a second,
Hundreds of a second. I get it, and I agree with that. But at the same time, if they play consistency, I would be frustrated. I'd be mad. Not at Warner. It's not his fault. Bloody hell. Even if we got pinged and they went the other side and then drew the game, I would have no problem with Warner, like what happened at that moment. But it's a tough one, isn't it? And I feel for the Tigers fans. But if you put away your green, black and gold, black and yellow, sorry.
Yellow and black.
Come on, mate. You put away your eyes for a second, you would also agree that it's a common sense call. So, like, I saw. If you don't like it, come at me. I mean,
no. I saw the incident you're talking about, and I think the key differences there, and it was, if you just look at it on surface level, it was pretty similar. I think it was in the middle of the game. It wasn't at a time. It wasn't like at the very end of the game. It wasn't like there was 30,000 screaming fans. It was pretty quiet. He'd already heard the umpire blow the whistle, and then clearly, threw the ball away. It was the controlling umpire. It was within that area, so the whistle was closer, and he should have heard it. In fact, did, and then threw it. So they're the key differences. So the call was made by a non-controlling umpire 60 meters away. Again, what was the call? Why was he calling it? If nothing else, to inject himself into a game, So I think they're the differences. But well noted, Chris. I think it's a good point. I think the whole year it's been totally inconsistent, and more than previous years, especially with this descent thing that's just thrown everything into chaos. It's like pushed all the rules out of whack. Holding the ball is now like, what is holding the ball? There's all the, high contact, sometimes it's called, sometimes it's not. Holding the man, sometimes it's soft as, sometimes it's there and they don't call it. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
AFL have got themselves a new head of umpires. So they obviously, finally recognizing that's a big problem. Some people are saying that that's the reason why people aren't going to games. I don't believe any of that. I think people aren't going to games because we've been in COVID for a couple of years. Some people are still worried, and the other half of people kind of realize they can watch the game at home or whatever. But we had 80-something thousand people at the MCG clash between Carlton and Collingwood. So I think that it's got nothing to do with that, but it's definitely something they need to fix because we're all getting over it. And the game is better when we're not talking about umpires. We need to talk about the game.
Yeah, I just think maybe they can simplify the rules a bit more again somehow. Not this year, next year, but
yeah. Your breakdown of what happened with the other occasion in the other game was really, really good. And so if we apply what you said there, common sense did prevail. I think we can all agree on that. So that's where I stand. But consistency across umpiring is a problem we've had all year anyway.
No, that's good, mate. Hey, how good does that didgeridoo sound after the goals in the Marn Grook? It's I think Steve-O said, or it was either Steve-O or you saying, I should bring that in for every goal. Maybe that was you, wasn't it?
That was me. Like I've been saying this for a little while. I think it's the greatest thing. I don't think we celebrate enough how much the Indigenous culture really means to Australia, and I think we need to do more with it. I would love nothing else than that to be a permanent fixture at the Swans. That's, again, something that no one in Swans Mania would ever have a complaint about, and in fact, I think we'd all get behind it. I think it was Noddy, who I'll talk about in a moment. I think she mentioned that there was a gap between the goal for the crowd to kick in and then the didgeridoo didgeridoo kicked in, and then there was a bit of a gap in order for the crowd to kind of make the noise that they needed. So it basically fit in perfectly with the vibe of the stadium, which is something that a lot of Swans fans been complaining about with, the music being played straight after the game, after the goal, where you don't get to scream and holler and sing the chant and do something. There's no emotion in that when you play some damn song. So the didgeridoo, mate, I would love it to be a permanent fixture. I think we're going to do a bit of a petition to see what the Swans fans think. So if you're interested, check us out on Instagram and also Facebook and on Twitter. And I'll be putting links to a petition. And I'm not necessarily petitioning it to be just that way. I want to get a genuine feel from Swans community to see what they say. And I would love to know whether people want it to be a regular fixture at the SCG, or whether it's something that we leave for only a couple games here, or we just leave it at Marn Group. And I'm more than happy to any one of those, but I would love to know what the Swans family thinks, because I love it. I can't get enough of it.
Does sound pretty good, mate. Before you talk about Noni, I've got one more game day anecdote that I was almost forgetting to mention. But in the row before us, like in front of us in the rabble in the O'Reilly, we had a couple of gents who we hadn't seen before. They basically had some red and white on, so we're like, okay, these boys are all right. And then we just got chatting to them throughout the game, and turns out Wayno actually played under 15s with buddies from WA. And he pulled out an old photo with him, and he pointed out, he goes, yeah, here's buddy, here am I, down in the front row. I think Wayno was one of the captains that year or something like that. But yeah, and I think Wayno was actually, technically speaking, a big Magpies fan, but he was there in support of Buddy on special night. And yeah, no, it was a big shout out to him. I got his permission to use this story in the bus on the way home back to Central. So shouting up the bus, Wayno, can I use this on the podcast? No worries, Noddy, go for it, mate. But no, it was really cool. It was just a really good connection, with Buddy, and considering what a night he had, it was just a really fitting sort of story. It was really cool.
Oh, that's brilliant! What a random event, but that's fantastic.
Totally, yeah. And over to you, mate. I think you were going to mention.
So Noni, he's a Swans super fan and prominent around the Twitters. Unfortunately, let's celebrate Noni to begin with. She's been a fan since 1996. She's been going to all games, since 1996. Her first game in 1995, where one of her very special friends, unfortunately, that passed away last year, took her to the game, and she was taken by it. She's a Sydney sider always, originally. And at the time, of course, the Swans were just kind of getting around it. Lockett's first couple of years there, I think, came over in 95. And she was started becoming a fan in 1995 and 96 onwards. She pretty much went to every single Swans game, bar a couple. The couple that she didn't go to were, I think, from memory, she had broken her leg, so she missed out a couple of months there, being able to get to the game, and the odd day here and there when she had the flu, she said. So she's pretty much made all of them. So that's, look, firstly, celebrating Noni, what can you say? Like, ultimate fan. We all love her for that. Unfortunately, she's not able to go to the games anymore because of it's becoming physically difficult to. And so she's kind of made it known that she's not able to get to the games easily. So unfortunately, she's going to be a fan from home. So I was lucky enough to interview her at her house. And we spoke about a lot of things. A couple of tidbits that I'll just slide in here, and you'll hear the full interview as a separate item on the podcast another time. But apparently, Buddy Hall and Plugger were two of the best huggers that she'd ever had. Which is the sweetest thing to consider. And she had some fantastic things to say about Brett Kirk and what he means to the Swans, about some of the young boys and some of her favourite players. And she is a huge reserves fan. So she spoke about some of the players in the reserves that didn't quite make it to AFL level, but she loved and adored, and just had some really wonderful stories along the way. So, Noni, love you. Thank you for letting me in the house and to interview you. And I hope we do a good job of it when we do the release. So All
Awesome.
the best.
Good to hear, mate. That's really cool. Actually, that's a good segue from Noddy. The reserves, we didn't touch on the VFL, so we may as well do that very quickly. Circle back. Of Stevens, Taylor, Amati, Clark, Gould, Ronk, McLean and Bell all had pretty decent games. Stevens and Taylor racked it up. Clark did too. Amati had a pretty good game by all accounts. Look, I don't know if we would tinker with anything here. What do you think, mate? Obviously, it'll be subject to Buddy, but...
Yeah, subject to Buddy and Reed. Is he in the best team week in, week out, depending on the matchup? Probably, maybe not. And there's a couple of boys that kind of swing in. Look, McLean, we've seen what he can do. I don't know whether Amati has another crack at it in response if Buddy sits out or so. So I think we still... And I think we've also been pretty clean with injuries. So Fox is back playing. He was named as the emergency
Medi-sub. Yeah,
Medi-sub. Cunningham is going to be back after the bye. He's kind of coming across well. And Sheldrick is running this week. So one other thing that we never touched on is Matty. What's his name?
Matty Roberts' debut,
Matty Roberts,
good point. Yeah. So I think it was pretty hot out there, and I think Horse and a couple of the others said that it's a debut that he'll never forget. Look, it was very fast out there, and I think he tried his hardest. But I think he's just going to get better and better, and that's the reason he made his debut. Right? They said ever since he joined, he's done everything that they asked him to do. He's listened, he's learned, he's improved. So the fact that he's gotten that debut out of the way, we go back, we think about Juzzy's debut, right? Like he was a little bit of a deer in headlights, and most people's debuts are, to be honest, unless you're like Errol Goulden or Logan McDonald or Braden Campbell. Was it those boys that had that cracking debut? So I liked what I saw from Matty Roberts. I think that he's just going to get better and better. He might hold his spot, he might not. He might go back down to the twos again, I think.
Yeah, I think, and look, I agree with you. I think the speed of the game was just a little bit beyond him, but he's not going to be a lesser player from this. I think you need the players to see that, so he needs to know what he needs to work on, right? So he's going to go back, be a whole lot better for it, and no doubt come back into the seniors in no time at all. So we've got a lot of selections, like you mentioned. Stevens doing really well. He's definitely put up his hand to have another crack at it. I think we all agree that he kind of weaned off a little while towards the end there. He's gone back into the reserves and worked on himself, and there's a very, very high chance he makes his way back into the team. Gould, Will Gould, I know that Swans fans have been screaming for him for a long time. He had a really good game, and we will probably see him sooner more likely than not. So,
if you think about
Swans fans, he's coming.
He's coming. If you think about just the pecking order, Blakey went out, O'Riordan came in, and I actually don't think Fox was even named as one of the 4 emergencies. And I was going to ask you this if you knew the technicalities of this. I think it was. I took a screenshot at the time. That's the kind of Swans fan I am. 2 seconds. Allow me to find this. The emergencies listed were Bell, McLean, O'Riordan, and Stevens. So what's happened is O'Riordan has gone into the team for Blakey, and then rather than giving Bell, McLean, or Stevens the Medi-sub, they actually realised that they might have a deficiency in defence and put Fox straight up into the Medi-sub. I thought that was bit of an interesting play, but anyway, it's not, pecking order clearly is Rampy, O'Riordan, Fox, and then as you said, Cunningham coming back, he's probably a regular. So, there is still that logjam there, and the fact that we're starting to play half decent footies, at least in the second half. I think it should, hopefully it'll happen this year. I'm talking about Gould's debut, obviously, but maybe not anytime soon. Given that logjam,
and we've been lucky with we've been mostly lucky with injuries, right? So we've been, for the most part, we've had a pretty decent time there. So it's a long season. The buyers come in, which is only more beneficial for us, making sure we keep our best out there. But now anything can happen throughout the year. So we've got a lot of depth in a lot of different positions. So that's a good sign. Very hungry young kids getting back.
Totally. I fully agree, man. Like I think it was last year or the year before. I think it was last year in the VFL. The Bulldogs did really well, and obviously the AFL team got to the final and got pipped. But a very good sign of a very strong club is having 2 high-performing teams, and the fact that we've got like 8 AFL level players, having these sorts of games in the resis bodes really well for the seniors team as well. So it's only a good thing for us to have here. So let's look ahead, mate. We've touched upon, and we'll do the quick preview sort of bundled up here. We're 7th on 7 and 4. We need 13 wins for finals. So we need another 6 at least from the remaining 11. As we mentioned, we've got Melbourne before the bye, then Port and St Kilda straight after that. So these are the last 3 of these middle chunk of games that were really, really important. We obviously dropped Carlton. We picked up Richmond as we're discussing. But the next couple are going to be pretty tight, mate. You got a view on them?
Yeah, Melbourne. So I think May is going to sit it out. He's got himself a bit of an injury. So if May's out and Buddy's out as well, it kind of evens itself out, basically. So if Buddy does make it in, then I think we've got the slide overs. They didn't play fantastically, and some of the players like Petrarca had a bit of pretty quiet game. So I don't know whether that's a conditioning thing, whether he had the flu. I think some people suspect that. So maybe it's a 1 week off, and then they bring themselves back up again. The Dockers are a very, very good team, and they beat Melbourne, and they did it with, I think, 6 goals straight in order to win the game, absolutely convincingly. So Melbourne is been an incredible team for the last 18 months or so, right? And it'd be stupid to write them off. So it's going to be a tough game no matter what. They're coming first for a reason. They're coming first convincingly. They weren't very convincing this week, but that can change in a week. Football does that to you. So I don't know how I feel about it, mate. Do you have any exact signs on it? How do you feel?
Oh, look, I think it's going to be hopefully a good game. Obviously Saturday at the G, Heritage round, Heritage Guernsey, Red V out. So that'll be good to see. Had a very close game against them last year. They only beat us by 9 in the wet. We really should have won that one. We won the year before 2020, and then they beat us the year before that. So look, we're not far away from them. As you said, the Dockers themselves, they were coming off 2 pretty bad losses and then bounce back to beat, Melbourne, who haven't lost a game in 17 games, including, from last year, including the grand final. So it was a pretty big win. Obviously, May going out affected their structure. I think a lot of people have spoken about that. And then Freo's small forwards just, got the job done. I think it was Schultz and Frederick, who's looking amazing. Collier, all these players. I think Lobb and Darcy, that dual ruck combo is looking pretty good. But the fact, Melbourne, they were 4-1. Freo's their only loss in that amount of games. Just the timing of it. Can you believe it? Like, I was thinking we might be the lucky ones to pip them to stop their win streak. But the fact that Freo did it a week before, how do we always just keep getting the bum end of the deal in that regard? But look, it's going to be tough. It sounds like they're getting 4 premiership Ds coming back. Tom McDonald, James Harms, Ed Langdon, who's a gun, Christian Salem, also very good. So this could go one of 2 ways. This could make them just look amazing, and their GF team from last year, other than Stephen May, or they could all be slightly underdone. I'm as a 6 Swans fan, I'm kind of hoping that they're all slightly underdone, and so that can give us some sort of freakish advantage. But I'm too emotional to tip or commit to a tip right now. But hopefully it'll be a good game, at least, because I think we play pretty well in the MCG. Is that your read?
Yeah, that's what my understanding is it as well. I think we don't really. What Carlton just beat us in the inside. They were, as Steve was saying multiple times last week, they were the first at the ball, right? And that's what that difference was. We were just lagging behind. We were always playing catch up, and that was a different animal this week. And so that's really where the game's going to be played for sure.
Beat him in the second half though, Chris. So like really, it's the first half, second half nonsense again, right?
Again. Yeah.
So we only lost the second quarter against Carlton. They smashed us. They beat us by 39. We won first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. So sorry, first, third, fourth.
And if we want to take it one down a bit more, and they kicked insanely straight in that second quarter. That really, really dragged it out. They put a lot more distance in it than arguably should have if they don't kick in the average. But we can't use that as an excuse. So we just got to play harder around the ball against this a very, very bloody good team and more consistent, as you said, throughout the entire game. So yeah, I don't have a tip. It's going to be a bloody tough game. They are a better team on paper, but as the Dockers showed, there are ways to beat them. So it's going to be a great one. It's going to be a fantastic game.
I think so. This is the last question before we go to wrap up. I guess is if we follow the Dockers game plan, which was obviously aided by Stephen May going out, I think they probably have a few more small forwards than us. So does that change your decision making around, if Buddy goes out, does it all come in, or do we bring in the likes of Ronk, who kicked 3 this week, or does Belly come back in? These are sort of the questions. If we're going to imitate Frio's game plan, I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one.
Yeah, Melbourne getting to a contest in the air is superb. They clear the area really, really well. It's not only do we need to you need the small forwards to scrum it, but we also need someone tall to make a contest of it to begin with. So you never know, maybe a Reed kind of rolls up forward and continues doing exactly what he does there. So maybe that is a decent matchup for him. And then the smalls crumbing around, and that, like you said, it seemed to work last week. Really interesting selection this week, I think, of all weeks, more so this week. If Buddy's not playing, I'm really interested to see how they think we're going to win. Maybe
Logan will, because he's still young, he's firing. He had that really good game the other week, that three goals, 3 and all those contested marks. And so maybe it's a case of, he steps up this week. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But
I would argue that McLean makes a lot of sense playing this week. So just the way that he's a really good contest marker, and he gets himself to the contest really well, and he goes to hurt. So and he runs more than most, right? He's very, very, very fit. So I would even be okay with him rolling in for Reed. But let's see. Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Yeah, awesome, mate. All right, well, so we're both going to skip the tip because that's it's just too nerve-wracking at this point. Obviously, I don't particularly have a best-worst memory against Melbourne because they were kind of irrelevant for a couple of decades until last year. But you got anything, mate?
Mate, my memory is that absolutely screaming second half last year in the grand final against the Dogs. That was superb. That was just the perfect game of football from them. I've never seen a team dominate that amazingly in such a turn before. It was a sight to behold, and it's still a fantastic game to watch. So look, now that we're playing them this week, I'm not going to rewatch that game. It's just going to make me more nervous. But that's my last memory of them, just how committed and how fantastically brilliant they were in that grand final.
It was pretty good. 6 goals for Fritsch. Can I just say I just don't know what to make of his hair.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah,
it's pretty rockabilly. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, look, if it works for him, mate, it's working for him. So he just keeps at it. That a boy.
That's it, mate. All right. Well, I think that brings us to the end of the episode, mate. So on behalf of the Bevy, I'd like to say thank you very much for everyone listening in. Keep an eye out for our team's reaction announcement on Thursday night. Make sure to keep following us on Instagram, Facebook at A Bevy of Bloods for other updates, videos, and announcements. Until then, up the Bloods and can you, Swanee?